Hi, this is Hiki with the Lost Summer podcast, and this week I have a difficult mission. I'm going to talk about the royalty of Brazilian music, or in other words, I'm going to talk about Chico Buarque de Holanda. He is better known outside Brazil and by newer generations by a meme that has circulated all over the internet of him smiling and of him being serious. But he goes much deeper than that, much deeper. Chico Buarque's dad was a big intellectual, an author of books. He was a professor at universities. He was like the dean of a museum, the Museu do Ipiranga in São Paulo. And he was a famous sociologist, a journalist. He was very famous. Anyway, this is all to show that he came from a well-established family of intellectuals, of people who had been in Brazil for a long time, the upper class, rich, which wasn't exactly the profile of the musicians that came after him. The guys from the Bossa Nova, like Vinícius de Moraes, was a diplomat. Tom Jobim also comes from a wealthy family. But Chico Buarque was not only from a rich class, but a family of intellectuals. Chico Buarque was born in Rio. But because of his dad's jobs, he lived in many places. He, as a child, went to Italy, where his father was a professor. And then when he came back to Brazil, he spent his adolescence in São Paulo, where his father looked after the museum, the Museu do Ipiranga. And he grew up there, and he finally graduated and went to architecture university. But his passions weren't in that. Since childhood, he had a passion for music. He started writing music very early as a child. He also, another passion that accompanied until the end of his life was, well, he's still alive, so I'm killing him here. But that accompanies him until now is football. He's a dedicated football player. Probably because of his dad's connections, he started his career very early. Must have been like 17 or 18 when he gave his music to be used in a play, right, in São Paulo. The play was quite successful. And from there, his career was a smooth flight towards success. He has a body of work that has 80 different publications among albums, books, and plays. He collaborated with the best people that you can think of in Brazil. He first appeared to the big public in a festival, which was the big way for people to become famous those days. Like most artists who became famous appeared in these festivals, and his song was a huge success right away. It was a song called A Banda. That talks about a band passing through a town playing love songs, and the best comes out of people, and everybody gets happy in the town, showing the good that music does to people. This song was a huge success from the top classes to the lower classes. It played everywhere. And this was the beginning of Chico's stellar career in music. His songs were very, 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 his lyrics, he was a lyric writer. He wasn't a songwriter, he was a lyrics writer, but his lyrics were excellent, excellent. Had he written in English, I have no doubt he would be up there with Bob Dylan, with John Lennon, perhaps even bigger, or who am I to say? But his lyrics were very, 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 very strong. He has one song that I've never seen this with anyone else. The song is called Construção, and the big feature of this song is that you can interchange the sentences or the phrases in the song in any way you want, and the song still makes sense. Which is something incredible. It has, like, I don't know, some 17 or some 15 sentences, and you can put them in any order, and the song still makes sense. It still rhymes. It still plays to the rhythm. It's very, very, very clever. As we've seen in previous podcasts, in the 60s there was a coup in 1964. At first it was pretty mild. They said that, okay, this is to remove a left-wing government, but it gradually got harsher and harsher and harsher. And when people started to protest against them, they put an inconstitutional decree, the AI5, that really made things dark. It became a very bloody and oppressive dictatorship. And Chico Buarque's career, right? He started more or less at the same time of the coup. His songs were accepted by everyone, but gradually he became more and more resistant to the dictatorship. He became more and more left-wing, and he really ended up becoming an icon of the left-wing because of his education and his social posture and his positions, which most educated people agreed with. So he became an unwilling, if you will, leader of the left. In 1969, which was when the dictatorship was at its worst, he auto-exiled. He went to Italy, where he lived until 1971. There were other musicians that were put in jail, that were tortured, or that were put in jail and exiled. He decided to go on his own. But when he came back, he was so popular, and he had so many connections that they never really dared to touch him. But he was heavily censored. The moment a song of Chico Buarque appeared in the censorship board, they censored it straight away. So what he did to dribble this was to have a nickname, Julinho da Adelaide, and he started to send songs, and they were accepted with this pseudonym. They kind of sussed out what it was about, but they said, okay, it's not Chico Buarque. And the thing is that his songs stopped being political, and they began being about the women's perspective of the world. And they were very profound songs. This was still in a very macho country. Even the left was very machista. It was very revolutionary, if you want, for that moment, for someone to write music as a woman. Because he was such an important and central figure, every musician wanted to play with him. Every composer wanted to compose with him. You know, there was a big competition among them, and he used the best musicians, the best music writers, and this gave his work also, not only in the lyric side but in the musical side, a huge quality. Everything he did was really, 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 really good. In his private life, personally, he was the kind of guy everybody wanted to be friends with. He was very friendly with important figures of the bossa nova, Vinícius de Moraes, Tom Jobim. They were very close. They famously got drunk together, and they were very good friends, obviously. But with Tropicalia, who were of the same generation, he had a different interaction. They were friends. They continued being friends. They are still friends to the present day, but they were very different. They probably saw Chico Buarque as a square guy, a very you know, he didn't take drugs, so like this inflexible leftist guy, and he probably saw them as sellouts to the American imperialism, if you will, because they emulated the Beatles. They went into the hippie thing. He never did that. He was always Chico Buarque, always firm in his beliefs. But the guys of the Tropicalia, namely Caetano and Gil, who are at the same level of him in quality and in music, they were more into the music. They were more experimental in their production. They were much better on stage. Their concerts were very lively, and they danced, and they had very catchy songs, and they were really good showmen. Chico Buarque, on the other hand, he saw himself as a serious intellectual. He wasn't very interested in being on the stage, and at one point he had stage fright. He didn't feel well on stage. Not that he felt sick, but he just didn't feel himself on stage, and he decided to go quiet. And he became a bit like the Beatles at the end of their career. He only recorded albums but didn't present him. There were, however, collaborations. One of his best records is one that he recorded with Maria Bethânia, who is Caetano Veloso's sister, and she's obviously very attached to the Tropicalia movement. They were personal friends, but distant, right? On the other hand, Chico was in a way much more down to earth. You could never imagine Gilberto Gil or Caetano Veloso playing football or kicking a ball. It just doesn't combine with them. They were like all these flower power kind of thing. Chico Buarque played football religiously throughout his life. He invited everyone he could to his. He had a football field. As I said in another podcast, even Bob Marley went to play football with him when he was in Brazil. But football players, politicians, personalities, you name it. Chico Buarque's legacy is very strong in Brazilian music. He set like a standard, and everybody tried to emulate that standard or tried to get close to him. So there were many artists, just them with the guitar, which was more with the acoustic guitar, which was more or less Chico Buarque's approach to music, and clever lyrics. And this really influenced what came after him until the 80s, and then it reappeared in the 90s. But musicians had this icon or this guy to look at in terms of quality and in terms of producing good music. And this really accounts for why Brazilian music was so good in that period. From my perspective, in my book called Lost Samba, the samba in there is the way Chico Buarque saw it. It's a form of life. It's from the heart and from the Brazilian culture in its nicest way, from the people. It's a pure joy, right? There is an element of patronizing, and this is present in the contradiction of him being a very rich person, speaking for the less privileged classes and kind of putting himself as their representative. He's not one of them, but he's still talking about them, which can be questionable. What is this guy talking for us? The poorer people in the beginning, when he did love songs or a banda, when they liked him, but when he became more intellectual, they just didn't hear him. The public that goes to his shows nowadays are successful people from his generation, not the poor people. They never went to his shows, although he focuses on them. Today's music I'm going to play is called A Gota d'Água, and it's a very, as all of Chico Buarque's songs, it's a very clever one. A Gota d'Água is the drop of water, but translating it into English, it would be the final straw. And this is in a relationship, like a woman or a guy saying, you know, leave me alone, I just can't take it anymore. But it can also be read as a Brazilian society under the military dictatorship, and they couldn't take it anymore. Já lhe dei meu corpo, minha alegria, já estanquei meu sangue quando fervia. Olha a voz que me resta, olha a veia que salta, olha a gota que falta, o desfecho da festa. Por favor, deixe em paz meu coração. Que ele é um pote até aqui de mágoa, qualquer desatenção, faça não. Pode ser a gota d'água, deixe em paz meu coração. Que ele não pode até que de mágoa, qualquer desatenção, faça não. Pode ser a gota d'água, pode ser a gota d'água, pode ser a gota d'água, pode ser a gota d'água. So as the final quirk, I'll say about two things, and they're both related to the same thing, which is Chico Buarque's relationship with the military, with the far right, with the police state that was installed during the military dictatorship, and this persecution, you can say. So the first one was the only terrorist act that I've been present to, and it was in Brazil. There was a show on the 1st of May, I think the year was 1979 or 1980, and Brazil was still in the process of becoming a democracy. It was a dictatorship, but there were presidential elections in the horizon. There were lots of exiles who had come back through an amnesty law. A lot of prisoners were also released through the same amnesty law. And there was this 1st of May concert with Chico Buarque present and other very big names, João Bosco, who you've already seen. There There was Milton Nascimento, Elis Regina, all the big names of Brazilian music were there in this 1st of May concert in a pavilion in Barra da Tijuca, which nowadays is like an upper middle class Miami style place. But at the time it was being populated, so it was still a very far away place. Rock in Rio was there nearby where this concert was many years later. And anyway, there was this concert, and the plan of the right-wing terrorists was to explode, was to put a bomb in this venue and explode it and kill people, and then use that as an excuse to return with the police state. Anyway, the bomb exploded in the car of the guy obviously died, and a friend of mine saw the guy's hand on top of his car. Chico was like the most censored guy in probably Latin American history. Everything he did was censored, and later on when they released these songs from censorship, say, what, they censored this? Why the hell did they censor that? But this ends with the story. There was this president, which most of you must have heard of, Jair Bolsonaro, the last president, the president before this one in Brazil, and he was like completely in favor of the military dictatorship. President Dilma, who was before him, she suffered also a coup. She was tortured, and the guy praised this torturer in the Brazilian, the equivalent of the Brazilian House of Commons. So during his government, the Portuguese government decided to give him the highest prize in Portugal. That's Prêmio Camões. Camões is like the biggest literary hero, a guy from the times of the discoveries, which is the high light of Portuguese history. And it's a very prestigious prize. But because Chico Buarque has this leftist aura around him, he was very engaged against Bolsonaro, campaigned against him, and did everything in his power to first help Dilma not suffer the coup that she suffered, and then for Bolsonaro not to be elected anyway. Bolsonaro, for this reason and for many others, because he was a leftist and he, in his mind, thought every leftist belongs to prison in a torture chamber, Bolsonaro refused to sign the recognition of the Brazilian government for Chico Buarque to receive this prize, which was completely ridiculous. Chico Buarque received it later. He kind of elegantly made fun of Bolsonaro, who is someone who is quite easy to make fun of. And anyway, this was a quirk. It's also worth mentioning that I lived in Portugal for a few years, and Chico Buarque is very popular in Portugal. He did several songs praising Portugal when they got rid of fascism and there was a revolution. He made a very beautiful song for Portugal. He was always very recognized by the Portuguese. And I saw a concert of his there, and it was incredible because he must have been in his 50s or his 60s at the time. A very sober concert, but there was these students that they were early 20s, late teens, and they were like Beatlemania. You know, when he appeared on the stage, they went berserk, and every song he sang, they went berserk. It was quite amusing to see that in Portugal. Anyway, I hope you like this podcast, and I hope to see you next week. Bye.